for Pitt. Intercepted by Ray Hubble, who may go all the way again. He's going to be cut off in the sideline. He was tripped by a man standing in front of the Winnipeg bench.
First down, Edmonton with the football. McManus going up top for Eddie Brown. What a catch! Eddie Brown! Touchdown, Edmonton! Penalty markers down all over the field.
Illegal substitution, too many men on the field, Saskatchewan.
From 33 yards out to win the 97th Grey Cup. Ball down, ball through.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is a long-awaited episode of the Football A podcast. There's a lot of things going on right now. Davis Alexander is back to quarterback my Montreal Alouettes tonight. More importantly, and most importantly, our good friend, Snack Bites Pete, SBP, is here because the landscape of the game is changing, my friend. And you are the only Canadian I know on this Zoom call that can tell us the most about the game and where it's headed and whatnot. I'm glad to see your face again.
Great to be back. Big changes. First of all, before we get into that, though, I just want to say the news that broke yesterday that Larry Thompson, owner of the Elks, passed away suddenly as well. So my condolences to the Thompson family, Elks organization, players, fans, and the CFL in general. It sucks, man. He got to own the team for 1 year and passed away. So real tough time. I'm actually in Edmonton now, going to the Elks Riders game tomorrow night. So I'm sure there will be a tribute to Larry there as well. So I can report back on that after the game tomorrow, if you'd like. But yeah, let's get into it. Big announcements earlier this week. Had a lot of people nervous, a lot of people on the edge of their seats waiting to see what was going to happen. Not often that you get that kind of cryptic announcement that there's going to be a major announcement the next day. So really gave people 24 hours to kind of stew on it. And I know there's a lot of nerves. I was excited. I was anticipating something big, and man, we got it.
So there's a few things, and like you said, like the abruptness of just, hey, here's what's happening with this being Commissioner Johnson's fourth month in charge or so. Like I thought it was pretty crazy that suddenly, and it seemed like there, like you said, there's kind of mixed opinions that it would be a nothing burger or a lot, but for it to just come in and announce all these changes, especially ones that are going to be over the next year or two. My first biggest question for you is they kind of announced things so that youth sports and high schools had some time to catch up before fully implementing. And I was just wondering if you had any insight as to if you think it's going to end up being detrimental or harder for the lower level Canadian game, because I think that's what the majority of Canadians want, is to grow the game at the grassroots level. And I know there's a few different campaigns, but I guess talk to me about that. Do you think it's feasible for this all to happen in that regard, or do you think there's going to be widespread struggle for over the schools in Canada?
We'll get into it a little bit. So next year's changes are going to be easy for everybody to implement. All that's happening next year in 2026 is teams will be on opposite sides of the field. Now, 4 out of the 9 stadiums that already happens. BC is the outlier in the West, and all 4 teams in the East currently have benches on the same side. So easy change, a no-brainer to me. I think most high schools have enough space in their fields that they're already opposite. So that one's not going to be too big of a change to implement. Second one is a 35-second play clock. NFL has 40. CFL claims that we have a 20-second play clock. I've been telling people that the 20-second play clock is a myth. If you PVR a game, as soon as the whistle blows, you hit that 30-second skip button, and it's 5, 10, 15 seconds till the ball's snapped anyway. Basically, the officials have to whistle in that 20-second game clock. They're going to go to automatic 35. myself and my podcast partner Don have been kind of campaigning for this for a while now. My Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Mike O'Shea have been the best at milking the supposed 20-second clock. So a big change there. They have 9-10 played drives that can take 7-8 minutes off the clock. So tell me that's a 20-second game clock. So anyway, that one's going to be pretty easy. The big question is what happens in the last 3 minutes of a half, because they have a different clock system right now to allow more plays in that final 3 minutes. I'd like to see that kept because, man, the last 3 minutes of a CFL game are exciting right now, and we don't want to see that go away. The other big change is the Rouge. Now, I'm anticipating Anthony on the opposite side of this one. I don't like the change. I've been a big proponent of the Rouge in general. It'll only be awarded now if a player takes a knee or is tackled in the end zone with the ball. I could live with not awarding it on a field goal or punt that sails out of bounds. I would have liked to see the change that as long as it touches a player or the field of play in bounds, that it can still be valid for a point.
I agree because like Jake Julian, who's back with Edmonton now, after he was in the NFL there for a little bit at the first half of the CFL season. Last year, I think he had like 13 singles or rouges or, whatever your vernacular prefers, but which is like, that is legitimately game changing in some aspects. And like hitting 75-yard punts, like at some point, in my opinion, when you're bombing the ball like that, like it's one thing, like you said, like it's one thing to take it from like the 40 or like the 45 and try to pin him in the corner and down at the 1 because you want the field position, and you've kind of enlightened us to that privately and that kind of stuff versus like taking the single, it rolls out great, whatever. But like I think the Rouge and like you said, kind of like an earned aspect or like rolling out because Jay Julian hit a 70-yard punt. Like I think that should still be a point, which will be interesting. And then obviously and with the missed field goal being a point, we have the end zone change as well with the Rouge. So, how do you feel about that one, SBP? The moving the goalpost, because that's kind of a signature thing.
Right. So that's going to be the big change for 2027. Just one more note on the Rouge. I think we can have a lot more excitement now as well if that ball is live. You might see more onside punts because as it stands right now, a punter can recover his own kick or anybody that lines up onside behind the punter when it's punted. So it might be a situation where you see some return specialists lined up behind that punter and sprinting down the field to try to recover a ball. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's actually a good point. I was going to ask you that too, because that's that obviously 2 years ago when Montreal did it a couple times, like it got a lot of headline, and then nobody's, I don't think, really done it since, or at least not as memorably that I can think of. So I thought that was interesting, and I was going to bring it up, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, and what that can create too is, especially what I was talking about, if the ball landing in and is in play, even if it rolls out, you almost have a guy back there playing goalie, trying to keep it from rolling out the back of the end zone. So it could create some really exciting special teams plays. But that's I hate to see it completely go away. I'm glad there's still a situation where you can score a single, but those changes were, I guess, inevitable because when a walk-off single happens, it usually gets a lot of chatter.
Yeah, absolutely. Which it's going to be interesting, I think, because obviously the like growth of the game is kind of at the forefront of these changes, or at least that's kind of the goal. But at the same time, like you said, it's the viral moments and like 100, like Trey Bavall going 128 yards on a missed kick, like that kind of stuff also provides viral moments and that kind of stuff. So to see those maybe be lessened, I wonder. Obviously at the end of the day, they think this will be long-term successful. Otherwise, I don't think you just announce all these changes. But yeah, I found it interesting to end up having to weigh those two against each other.
Yeah. So circling back to the 2027 changes, as you mentioned, goalposts are moving to the back line as opposed to the goal line. end zones are shrinking from 20 to 15 yards, and the field size itself is shortening by 10 yards. So no more 55-yard line. It'll be a 50-yard field. I don't think I need to dissect each one of those individually because I think they're all tied together. The biggest change they wanted to see was to move those goalposts to the back line. And because of that, shortening the field and shortening the end zone still bring field goals into play. If you're kicking with a 20-yard end zone with the goalpost at the back, kicking from the 30 becomes a 57-yard field goal roughly. So you'd have to get down into the 20-yard line to really make people comfortable even attempting a field goal. I think that's where those all come into play. Interesting note, doing these changes to the field dimensions makes it possible to get a CFL-sized field into MLS soccer stadiums, for example. And I think that's one thing that maybe is prompting this change. There is a soccer field in Halifax that has I can't remember the name of the league, but the Canadian Professional League has a soccer team in Halifax. They would now be able to incorporate a CFL-sized field into that stadium. So maybe this is angling towards getting that 10th team, and at that point, then you can look at 11 and 12 if we've got stadiums that can accommodate.
I want it on record that I am not a rich man, but I would love to own a CFL team. And at the start of that, when SBP was talking about the field dimensions and the kicks and stuff, you were shaking your head kind of in disapproval. Obviously, the surrounding fodder of these changes is that it's becoming more like the NFL. You and I, obviously, longtime NFL fans, but you were shaking your head in almost disapproval. Tell me how you're feeling.
Yeah, obviously big NFL fan, but I agree that these changes are generally making it more like the NFL, and I don't want that. Like I like that the CFL is so different and it makes it so unique. Again, we've talked about it as opposed to the USFL or the XFL here, whatever fake spring league we have here. That's garbage that are trying to basically just be minor league NFL. I hate that. The CFL, the difference in the game, in the field, and where the goalposts are make it so awesome. And I hate to take parts of that out of it. Even I hate the missed extra point rouge. I hate it. We all know this. I even dislike seeing that being taken out just because I do like it being different. I like it. And I'm sad that it's changing. Even if I get the point of they want to put a team in Halifax or they want to whatever they're doing the changes for, I hate to see it change and become more, I'm going to call it standardized to the NFL, but that's not the right word.
SBP, you're a longtime CFL fan. How does that like affect you that he, like, not that you guys are at odds or anything, not to make this sound like Dr. Phil, but like as two Americans who found the game and like the three of us found each other via social media, like what do you feel when you hear like us talk about the game the way it is versus these changes?
I love to hear it, actually, and it's something. There is a lot of chatter here. There's people that are terribly upset as well. So I really appreciate Ant coming out in support of the current rules. I mean, a couple of things aren't changing that are still very uniquely Canadian. 65 yards wide field, 12 men on the field, unlimited motion. We still have the waggle. That stuff's not going away, and that's also something that's very unique. You get American guys up here that have played college ball in the States, and all of a sudden a receiver gets to hit the line running at the snap of the ball, and they are super excited once they figure out that timing. And you see it. You see elite receivers figure out that timing, and they're gone. They blow by a defender. It's a lot of fun. So there's still a lot of great aspects to the CFL that aren't going away. Change is inevitable in sports. I mean, 1974, the NFL moved the goalpost to the back of the end zone. They used to be in the front as well. I mean, that's going back 2 generations. I get it, but it's not something new. Major League Baseball brought in the pitch clock. They're getting robot umpires. NHL took away the center line for 2-line passes. The 3-point line and the shot clock in the NBA are newer innovations as well. The CFL has gone through some changes. It used to be 14 men on the field, no forward passes. no blocking allowed on punts. It was basically just that guy facing 14 guys coming at him. So, evolve or die. And I don't see this as an Americanization necessarily, other than I think taking away that the failure point rouge is the one thing I would say that's uniquely Canadian that's going away.
Do you think that it'll end up I mean, I guess you're as close as we have to a league historian, at least quick access to, obviously I know the game was really exciting, the Flutie era, the 80s and the 90s. There was a lot of high flying, the stats, a lot of points and that kind of stuff, which I think nowadays is especially like you said, with the NBA, the 3-point shot, analytics, all that stuff. What leagues are kind of gearing towards. We've seen it with the NFL, and like Ant said, the quote unquote standardization, pass interference, more passing, that kind of stuff going forward on fourth down. Obviously, there's no fourth down in the CFL, but for you, do you think that's kind of what the play is here to get more Americans back into the game? Because you would think that then you would just change the roster construction rules if that's kind of the goal. But do you think maybe that's part of this is attracting the American talent a little more?
I don't think so, honestly. I don't see it that way. The ratio as it stands right now, they have made some tweaks to it over the years. I would like to see it continue for the development of Canadian players, and we're seeing a lot more Canadian talent both in the CFL and the NFL as well. There's guys that are playing college ball in Canada that are getting shots in the States, or guys that go down play Division I ball in the States and get looks as well. So
Isaac,
yeah.
Eddie Berglund, one of those.
Yeah, and famously Mapletron was the one receiver for the Steelers. I'm blanking on his name at the moment.
Chase Claypool.
There you go. Yeah, and I mean he's maybe fizzled a bit over the years, but had a bit of a big rookie season catching touchdowns in the NFL as well. I guess it might be more comfortable for American players to have that more standardized field, if you will. Still a lot of differences on the return game.
But yeah, I was going to say that, I guess, yeah, that would be kind of a lot of the actual function of the game is probably, still uniquely Canadian versus, like Ant said, kind of standardization.
Yeah. It's always a lot of fun watching, especially in preseason, a rookie guy playing special teams return in the CFL, waving for a fair catch and getting blown up, or touching the ball in the end zone and not realizing that it becomes live, or coverage guy trying to down the ball, and the confused looks when they get back to the sidelines and the coach is drawing things back up for them is always pretty fun to watch. I want to get back to the goalposts moving to the back line as well. You asked about junior football and youth sport football and that sort of thing. That's going to be the biggest challenge, especially the minor football and high school football. It's going to be a lot of expense to move goalposts and returf fields, things like that. There are a handful of CFL stadiums that already host the U Sport teams as well. Well, actually, your Montreal Alouettes play at McGill University, so they're actually a tenant in the U Sport stadium in that regard. So a lot of questions to be answered as far as what U Sports do. They do have that extra year because the infrastructure changes won't take place until 2027, but they have to decide what they're going to do in that year, essentially, and figure it out. The great thing about the changing of the dimensions, though, is if you watch an Alouettes home game, the 20-yard end zone currently doesn't fit. They've got some weird angles at the back. I hate that more than I hate the Rough Riders. No, actually, let me backtrack. I hate that more than the air horns in an Alouettes game. I hate it less than I hate the Rough Riders, but I'll be happy to see that go. BMO Field in Toronto doesn't have a full-size end zone right now either. They're about 3 yards short. So they'll be able to get all of those in. We'll have a standard playing surface in every stadium.
See, but that's every year. Okay, so back to the kind of comment that I was making of the viralness, or the popularity aspect of trying to make the game more whatever cerebral or more noticeable. That clip, I feel like, or that picture of McGill goes viral like once a year at least. I love it, and it's my team, so I'm not gonna hate it. But quit shaking your head.
I'm with SBP here. I think so. This is kind of going to come. I hate the standardization to other types of football. I like the standardization within a sport. You're not going to like this, Hop. I hate that all baseball stadiums have different dimensions. It gives funk. I got to hear 30 of Aaron Judge's home runs only out at Yankee Stadium. I have to hear that 40 times a year. I think that's dumb. I think they should all be the same dimensions. I think that's the correct way to do it. And even if it's 3 yards or whatever it is in Toronto, I don't like that they're not the same. I think they should all be the same. Even playing field, no matter where you are.
And you guys might be a little too young to remember, but when we had the shared stadiums for baseball and NFL football, you had some ridiculous looks as well. I think Oakland was one that was famously the Athletics field, and then the Raiders season starts up and they're running across the baselines, and it looked pretty silly too. So I think from a professional level, trying to promote your sport, the standardization is a good thing.
Yep.
I get where you guys are coming from. I love the running on the sand. My youth football, we co-opted towns. So my town and the next town over, we had to play together, and we played some of our home games. Actually, most of them through youth football on a field that had just a little bit of a baseball field going through it. So it did suck, like personally playing on it. But that's like you said, like I love baseball, and I think Wrigley Field's a piece of shit. But like Fenway, Yankee Stadium, like knowing you like know that, I guess that's kind of the point. Like you're going to go play at Yankee Stadium. Like when you're both playing there, sure the Yankees get 81 games there, but at least in the game that you're playing, it's all the same, right? Like that to me, that's where it matters. But I'm a unique one in that sense. So I get where you're coming from, Han, for sure.
I will definitely miss the goalposts at the goal line, though. I think it created some excitement. We've had famously playoff games decided by a ball bouncing off the goalposts, and not just the 2019 Western Final, which was one of the greatest games of all time, because Cody Fajardo for the Riders bounced one off the pipe and the Bombers won. It also happened to the Bombers back in the 90s, where Matt Dunnigan bounced one off the crossbar with a wide open receiver in the end zone, and lost to actually the Baltimore team that went on to the Grey Cup that year. So it does happen. I get what they're saying about trying to open up the center of the field when you've got plays down in the red zone. Teams can use the goalpost as a pick right now, though, which creates some excitement too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Actually, through that's the one thing I've noticed is that like Cody Fajardo is not afraid. He does like to throw that like one-on-one post through the uprights, which I think is fun. But anyways, continue your point.
Yeah, and it has created havoc. They're trying to pitch it as a player safety issue, but I mean, I can think of maybe one occasion where somebody actually ran into a goalpost and had any kind of injury. So I don't really see that being the case. It's more, there's some visuals as well that can affect sight lines, I guess, but it's a unique part of the game. So I am kind of sad to see that go away. But like I said, I think tying that in with the field dimensions and the end zone dimensions, they're all kind of related in why they made those changes.
So I got to ask this now, because I think we've gone over most of the changes, and I think there's like pros, just like anything, like you said, kind of change is inevitable. There's some good stuff that we like, and there's some stuff we don't. Whatever, right? And we're gonna get over it. We're still gonna watch the CFL. Actually, there's two things I have to say. One that's still on the more serious side before I get wonky, but I had seen, I think, Mr. CFL heartthrob Luke Wilson bring up at one point was about the kind of the state of the teams and these changes being made, like the financial state of the CFL game. It sounds like for most teams it's not great, and I guess I mean, none of us are in the league office and that kind of stuff, but like, what do you think the financial? Do you think there's anything financially that's going to come out of this? Like, obviously, if these changes make the game better, more fans and that kind of stuff, but I don't know that it's going to matter when you have a team that's four in the rest, and that kind of stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, right now, I believe the two teams that turned a profit last year were the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're also the two community-owned teams, which is interesting. We have a really solid ownership, probably the most solid that we've had in the CFL in a long time. At the same time, those wealthy owners don't want to just watch this thing lose money every year. So, I get it. A couple of things that have changed recently is the more single game betting, that kind of thing that's driven some revenue and some interest. So I believe they're hoping these changes will actually increase that even more. And that was one of the arguments for the change to the Rouge rules, was it was affecting point spreads pretty drastically as well. I guess there's some merit to that.
As somebody who's bet on, I would say probably 80% of the CFL, not to like say that your point is wrong, because I get where you're coming from, but just like hearing you say it out loud and realizing that I've bet on a lot of CFL games, I don't know how much that's true. Not trying to discredit you or anything like that, because you're the one who said it, but I mean, you're obviously who you're speaking for.
Oh no, call me an idiot. That's all.
No. You're obviously you're speaking on behalf of that. I'm not trying to call you out or anything specific.
Yeah, and one other thing to keep in mind as well is the broadcast contract comes up after next season. So now they're looking at renegotiating that. Are they looking? And I'm sure they are. So for the people that don't quite know, Stu Johnson, the new commissioner of the CFL, was in charge of TSN, the Canadian the sports network in Canada, for many years. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So if you've got somebody that's got his fingers on the pulse of the broadcasting industry as well, he's the guy. So bringing him in now with a broadcast contract coming up next year is huge for the CFL. I wouldn't be surprised to see them partnering with Amazon Prime or Netflix or YouTube or somebody to get that streaming rights and revenue up a bit higher, as well as renegotiating the cable, whether it's with TSN, Sportsnet, or somebody else coming in for the broadcast rights. So that's another revenue generator. We know the NFL is such a juggernaut; it can survive without a single fan in the stands because of the revenue that broadcasting rights generate. The CFL is still a gate-driven league, but if they can supplement that with a better broadcast deal, that's going to help the bottom line as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, to get a little bit silly now, I want us all to, and with no preface, so we might just sit here and stare at each other, but one rule: you can make it, you can take it away. It doesn't have to be anything that's happened now, but add to the game, take away to the game. Is there one thing? I mean, you said the clock has kind of been on your radar for a while, but is there one, kind of the silly like ESPN game? Is there one rule, or that very simple game that the TV shows like to play? What's the one thing you'd change about the game?
Okay, I'll kick it off to give Anta a chance to come up with something here as well. And you had touched on it a bit earlier with the dribble kick onside punt that Montreal pulled off miraculously a couple of times 2 seasons ago. The way the rule stands now is if you're behind the line of scrimmage, you kick the ball over the line of scrimmage and you recover it, it's an automatic first down. Whether if it's a 3rd and 13 and they do it, they get a first down if it goes 2 inches over the line of scrimmage. I have no problems with that part of the rule. What I currently don't like is you could catch a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage and then kick it forward. And we saw that with Joshua Antwi. He caught a forward pass from Fajardo, was still behind the line of scrimmage, dribble kicked it. So I would like to see it that once a forward pass is thrown, that's it for that play. You're moving forward and take away that aspect. If you want to still do that onside kick, a lateral, a handoff, you roll out and you do it, great. And I'm even okay with not having to get the first down yards to get a first down. It's a great quirk, and I think a throwback to the rugby roots. So I'm in favor of keeping that, but just take it away on a forward pass.
Fair enough. I like that. That's solid. That's somebody who's thinking about this, and not just Ant and I, who are definitely not.
Ripping on the spot. I have one, and it's going to contradict everything that I've said pretty much this whole episode. I've been talking about not standardizing to America, but in my opinion, this specific rule does not add any uniqueness to the Canadian game that is not present in it. I don't think the defensive line should be a yard off the ball on every play. I don't think that adds any uniqueness to the game, and I hate that. I mean, it's essentially you only have to get 9. Like there's no way to stop it. It's impossible. It's more dominant than the tush push on 3rd and 1. You get it every single time, and I hate it. It's infuriating that there's nothing the defense can let the big boys up front line up and at least have a shot to stop them. If you can, they deserve the chance to actually try. And I think you should remove that yard of gap between the offensive and defensive line and make it harder for the offensive line, obviously. But I think it's the right thing to do.
Fair enough. I'll see SBP. I'm going to be interested in your opinion here. The no yards rule, and specifically no yards it's a 15-yard penalty.
Correct.
I think that is far too many yards. I think it would make sense that in no yards you would get 5. And not like it's obviously like if you get to midfield and you pin a team deep, that's where it's probably less so. Those 15 yards matter less in the grand scheme of the game. But it's when you have a team pinned deep, are pretty rare in CFL, I'd say, for the most part. But you get a couple of those times kicking from punter standing on his own 10. You get a no yards, all of a sudden you're at the 35. And it's just like, okay, well, you may as well just shank the punt and call it good. So that's one of the things that I haven't liked about the one thing I would change personally. I'm interested in your opinion on that, though.
Yeah. So I'll get to Anthony's here first. I love the yard. It's something that is very unique, and it creates more offense. I get what you're saying about the 3rd and short. I 100% know where you're coming from on that one, and especially you got somebody like Tommy Stevens that has just become a specialist at getting that yard or that
using your own guy against you.
Yeah,
it's fair. I hate when we do it too. Eagles fans are man enough to admit that they hate the tush push, but I'm man enough to admit that I hate the Tommy Stevens 1 year.
Yeah, so I get it from the short yardage perspective, but I do like the gap it creates, and it gives you that neutral zone for the receivers as well. I talked about the waggle earlier. They kind of get a step into that neutral zone before it's flagged, and so it gives a little bit more leeway. I think it creates more offense. If they took it away, I'm not going to be super sad about it, but I do like the way it is. The no yards, interestingly, they actually changed the rule. It used to be if the punt bounced on the ground and then was picked up, it was only a 5-yard penalty on a no yards. So, but it was caught in the air, it was the 15. And they standardized it to be completely a 15-yard penalty now. There are still some occasions where it's 5, and I don't quite understand when that comes into effect. I know it's on a ball that bounces, but I just can't remember the specifics to it. It also creates more action in the return game. I hate the fair catch. I've always hated the fair catch. I think it's ridiculous that a guy just stands there and waves and the play stops. And this is something that the CFL does to create that excitement. Maybe it should be better standardized to 10. I think, especially on a ball that bounces and rolls, 15 is ridiculous because you got guys running down there on coverage. The ball takes a funny bounce. They're trying to get out of the way. Boom, they get penalized 15 yards. That's pretty punitive, and I think they can do better. A standard 10 yards would be something that I could certainly live with.
I'm glad we can meet in the middle there. Should we talk a little bit ball where the season's at? I mean, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. You're going to the Ryder Elk game tomorrow. What are you looking for? Are you just going to look for Fajardo to throw for 450 and 5 scores?
You're trying to watch the best team in the league.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have never really rooted for the Elks in my life, Even earlier this season, I was actually in another game in Edmonton against the Montreal Alouettes. That was the one where Tyler Sneed caught that ball in the corner of the end zone, and nobody from the Elks was even in that side of the field. He's still looking for a DB, I think, today. That game, I was kind of cheering for football. I had Sneed in my pick'em, so I was really happy to see that. So I was kind of cheering football plays. Tomorrow, I'm green and gold. I'm all in on the Elks, and I'm not picking the Elks to win, but they've got 30,000 plus seats sold, biggest crowd of the season so far, and a home win would be fantastic. Going to the tailgate, there's a good tailgate atmosphere there as well. The Turf District podcast hosts a tailgate pregame as well, so we're going to check out and connect with those guys. Really excited to see the crowd. The Montreal game wasn't really well attended. It was the season opener, and I think there was under 15,000, so it can be double the crowd size. A lot of Rough Rider fans will be there as well. It's Edmonton's fairly close to some cities in Saskatchewan, so should be a really exciting game. And yeah, Fajardo throwing for 4 touchdowns would be fantastic to see.
It would, yeah. I'm kind of sick of playing Fajardo. I am, but that's okay. How about your team? How about Winnipeg? Where are you at with them? Obviously, I have to throw in the 0-2 this year, back to back against us, obviously. But besides that, because I know obviously that probably shattered you, as it should. But since then, or besides that, what's your gauge on the team?
Chris Strebler, 3-1 as the starting quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's a step back that isn't surprising. They've been to 5 straight Grey Cups. They've got people aging out. They've had some injuries. Poor Dalton Schoen, man, the guy gets back in the lineup and blows out his knee again. Pretty tough to see. They're still in the picture. They're 7-7. They're in 3rd place. I predicted that they were going to finish 2nd in the West. Depending on what happens with the Calgary quarterback situation, that's still on the table. But they have to go on a miracle run to make it back to a Grey Cup at home this year. There's good parts to the game, but we see some holes in that defensive secondary. I'm not crazy about Zach Collaros being signed through 2026. I thought this should have been his swan song this year. He's been hurt, so we'll wait to see what happens there. I want to see the Taylor Elgersma era begin as well. Didn't quite stick with the Packers. I mean, I know he's looking for some other options south of the border, but the Bombers did draft him, and he would be an exciting CFL quarterback if he makes his way up as well.
So I gotta stop you there, because I saw today the CFL posted something about the Philpott brothers, and they said their dad played in the CFL and that's what they wanted to do. And obviously we've seen Nathan Rourke, and obviously Curtis is in the NFL. He was probably a snap away from getting an opportunity. But here, what do you think? We're going through all these rule changes, so whatever. I'm gonna just ask, what do we got to do for like Elgersma type guys? Like, I don't know that. I mean, he got invited to the Senior Bowl, and he seems like a pretty talented young man. But like obviously the other guy, Jonathan, is it Senate? I don't know. I mean, my French is Seneschal. I think he won the U Sports Heisman last year, right? Do you know?
The Heck Crichton Award is what that one is called.
Thank you. But I think he won it the year before for Montreal, because I know the Carabins won the Vanier Cup. I do have that one in the Rolodex. I know they won the year before, and I think he won that award. So and now he's in the CFL. He's obviously behind Davis. But I guess what do we got to do so that obviously the Rourke brothers are kind of the exception to what's going on, but Elgersma, I feel fairly confident as I don't know how long his NFL career is either going to be or would have been. But what do we got to do for them to is it just the success of the league and drafting contracts and that kind of stuff, or is it just he got drafted to Winnipeg, so obviously Collaros was there, and so he was just going to go south of the border, try to get what he could there?
Well, I think so. Two parts to this question. Are you asking about guys getting Canadian players getting an opportunity to stick in the NFL, or how we get those
More,
highly
yeah. How do
touted
we get
guys back into Canada?
Yeah, not that I don't love, Canadian players or like don't want them in the NFL. That's not, yeah. My question is more of like, what do we have to do for these talented youth sports guys to like basically be like, the college football or the NCAA youth sports be the same thing to the CFL as NCAA is to the NFL, where these guys are going, this guy just won the Vanier Cup. Now he's Calgary's quarterback. Obviously, Americans and roster size and all that kind of stuff plays a big role. And I'm sure it's a lot more nuanced than I'm asking um, to that kind of stuff. But why wouldn't El Gurzma just try to go win the job? Like the contracts aren't that long.
It's. I think it's purely financial. I mean, a couple of things right now. The NIL deals in NCAA football draws guys south to play that level to some degree, and then even a practice roster spot on an NFL team, you're making more than the rookie contract in the CFL. So we'll take Nathan Rourke for example. He had a breakout in the CFL, went down and tested the waters in the NFL for a couple of years, got to the point where it didn't look like things were going to work out there. Now he came back because of what he's already done in the CFL. He's essentially the face of the league and a Canadian star. El Gurzma is a bit of a different animal because he played U Sport football. But if you are playing Madden and you're building an NFL quarterback, Taylor El Gurzma fits the mold. He's 6'5", he's 240 pounds, he's got a gun for an arm. Absolutely, he's going to take a look and try to catch on south. The fact that he didn't sign with another team after Green Bay let him go doesn't bode well. And part of it is the who you know in the NFL. There's been a lot of talented guys that played U Sport or have some ties to the CFL that just don't have the connections to make an NFL team. Adam Bighill is a prime example. He had some a drink with the New Orleans Saints, but because he was not the big name guy that the team drafted, he was cut even though he outplayed somebody in camp. And that's something that we're always going to deal with. And the money thing is the other part of it that we're always going to deal with. I believe Zach Collaros is making $650,000 this year, and he's a top paid player in the league. So starting quarterbacks make good money. They're all, I think, roughly 400 to 650 in that range in the CFL. But if you take a tour through the NFL for a couple of years, bank some cash, and then come back, it makes a lot of sense as well. I would love to see Curtis Rourke versus Taylor El Gurzma in a Banjo Bowl in 2027. We'll see where we get with that, but that's the dream. But we are seeing a lot. This is kind of a golden era of Canadian quarterbacks. You've got Rourke, you've got the Rourke brothers, you've got Trey Ford, now he's in the backup role again, you've got El Gurzma. So guys are getting out there as well, and we haven't seen that number of Canadian quarterbacks at that level in quite some time.
Well, it's interesting too because I think it's the quarterbacks in general. Like I think it is pretty deep. Like between Cody and Davis, like Cody, the like Montreal thing believing in Davis and trading Cody is like one thing. And like you mentioned, Trey Ford. Like I thought there's like some good guys there, but there is. The league would benefit from an expansion in the fact that if Trey Ford's all of a sudden the quarterback of the expansion team, that would be insane. Like very, very cool. Because he was kind of like the touted one. Now he's not, but like Cody is fantastic. He's clearly not set on going to the NFL. Obviously, like you said, Rourke, the Rourke brothers, Curtis is probably going to be here before we know it. El Gurzma likely the same. Like, obviously, I hope that Curtis ends up with a gold jacket in the NFL, but I'll settle for a CFL Hall of Fame career as well because I want only success for that beautiful young man. But that's more personal than anything. So like, yeah, I don't know. I just long term, we're just trying to figure out how the CFL can balance the American talent that comes in while also promoting kind of the grassroots thing, getting the El Guerzma types just into the league right away, because I just think that's so much better for the continuity. I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say, like, instead of Strevler running the ball 18 times a game, handing off to Oliveira, like, you would like to be seeing El Guerzma, right?
Oh, 3-1, baby. No, I would. I agree. I think a simple solution would be to have a spot on every CFL roster for a Canadian quarterback that doesn't count either against your ratio or against your 53-man roster. Almost have an extra spot to develop. And, you know, we could be looking, if Elgersma and Curtis end up here, we could be looking at almost half of the league with a Canadian starting quarterback. But that's how you develop, is you get those guys in, especially, again, we're kind of blanking on the guy's name from Montreal that won the Creighton. But
Seneschal.
Yeah, so he's not going to jump into the starting lineup right away on a CFL team, but getting him into that roster, into that quarterback room, working with that coaching staff. I mean, Jason Moss is a former quarterback. Anthony Calvillo is a Hall of Fame quarterback, probably one of the top 3 CFL quarterbacks of all time. That's a heck of a coaching staff to have working with a young quarterback. And so to bring in a spot that doesn't cost you is a great way for every team to have somebody on their roster that's got those Canadian passports.
Well, and I guess while you're speaking, I just kind of like, and the points you're making, I'm sitting here thinking, like, at the end of the day, it's going to be more financially beneficial for the league and the players to be able to, like, to grow the game in Canada, if that's the goal that I think a lot of people and Canadians have. Like, you're going to have to take out some of the American talent at some point as the Canadian talent gets better, which is good. Especially if you want to keep the game as Canadian as possible. And, like, obviously, you know, the overall growth, like, at some point there's like an equilibrium that's going to have to break for that to actually occur, rather than Montreal having Caleb Davis, 2 Americans, and then you have Seneschal sitting there. They brought in James Morgan. You know, like, this laundry list of guys. Obviously, it's a little bit different with the injuries that they've sustained, but still, like, having 4 guys on the roster, like you said, and then also having the negotiating list, like, I don't know. You see the kind of what I'm trying to say, where, like, you can't offer this ratio. Like, at some point, you're going to have to break the ratio rule and stuff like that, which would suck because there are some American guys that I love to see in the league. But, and you're shaking your head. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I disagree. I get the point, but I think the bigger driver of interest, of the quote unquote success, is going to be when those Canadian players consistently beat out the Americans that are coming up above the border. If you can get to the point where half the league is Canadian quarterbacks just by them being the best options, I think that says a ton about the talent pool coming up from Canada. And that's going to, in my opinion, drive the younger kids to want to do that as well and make it so it's all Canadian. I think that's how you drive it. Rather than telling the Americans, get out so we can be all Canadian because they're the best options.
Yeah, I fully support the ratio as it stands right now, but we are seeing Canadians in more skilled positions, not just quarterback. It used to be you'd have at least 3, maybe 4, sometimes 5 hogs on that offensive line as Canadians. So that's a big chunk of your roster right now. Then you throw a guy back at safety, maybe a receiver or 2, maybe a guy on the interior of the D line. That's your Canadian ratio. We're seeing guys like Terrell Ford in Edmonton that started in Winnipeg, an elite defensive back playing a corner position that's Canadian. We're seeing Brady Oliveira, Andrew Harris before him in Winnipeg, really change the ratio in throwing a Canadian at running back. And there's been John Cornish, there's been great Canadian running backs as well, but Winnipeg really focused on that. They brought in Johnny Augustine as a backup running back as well. They took that as a traditional American roster spot, said, this is Canadian, we're filling it. and we're seeing more of that happen. Matthew Betts on the defensive line as a rush end. So you're already seeing some of those skill positions coming up, and the more that happens, it pushes. And Canada's funny in this way. We need to see success to build success. I'll give you some little history notes here. The Toronto Raptors coming into the NBA, and big country, and the failed Vancouver Grizzlies, but they brought a lot of excitement to basketball, and we see star Canadian players now in the NBA. It was the Raptors and it was Steve Nash that pushed that forward. The reigning NBA MVP Canadian. So we've seen that push. PGA Tour, Mike Weir won the Masters in 2003. There's now 5 regular players on the PGA Tour that are Canadian that have all won tournaments as well. So you see that success. So I think what Ant was saying, you start to have successful Canadian quarterbacks. It drives the kids to be better quarterbacks. It drives the youth sport programs, or trying to push them into Division 1 or Division 3 schools in the States to elevate the level of play of Canadian quarterbacks. And that's only going to help boost the quality of players that we're going to see.
And that's where I guess the American side of things, just where it's like a kid for me. I'm from a couple minutes outside of a big city. My goal my entire life was to be a Badger. Turns out I ended up being 5'9", hardly even 200 pounds, and now I've surpassed it with a couple children. But like
the 5'9", 40 didn't help either.
But that's certainly, the legs didn't really move that quick for sure, and the hands were brick-like. But so I guess that's kind of maybe the synapses that doesn't snap in my brain, where it's like we got to have. To me, it would be the only solution that I've ever seen is you grow up, you root for your local team, you try to play for that college team, and obviously your goal is to go pro at some point. So for the Canadian, the route that you just mentioned, where it's try to get Canadian kids enjoying the game, see the success from the CFL. All right, now you're going to go to America for 4 years, and now you're going to show back up in Canada. I guess that's the cycle that I'm trying to figure out. I don't know, maybe avoid it. And
yeah,
I think there's still
about this, but
I think there's still a lot of value, not only for the players financially, but for the league, with them taking a shot at the NFL. SBP just mentioned Steve Nash. I mean, the Canadian winning MVP of the NBA drove Canadian basketball. If somehow, some way, a Canadian quarterback would ever get to the point of winning NFL MVP, or even being in a conference, even being an NFL starting quarterback, would I think drive so much to Canadian football that I think it's worth it to take the shot. And then when it doesn't work, you come back, you dominate the CFL, you're still driving that. I think it's a two-headed. You either way, I think you're driving success.
Yeah, I guess for me, where to try to articulate more is instead of coming here, why not be that stud, awesome guy who tore it up in college and just go right to the CFL, where all of a sudden you're making, like you said, I guess it's the financials at the end of the day. The Rourke brothers have kind of proven that point. So maybe, like I said, I'm just an idiot guy talking about it who doesn't understand it that well, or doesn't know the intricacies of it. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I'm a little bit old school in the fact that I like to see a guy kind of like the Derek Jeters, where and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same guy on the same team forever, but just get that really talented Canadian kid to the CFL, get him playing right away and making an impact. I guess, obviously that math doesn't work right now, and I don't know if it will in the future, but that's kind of where I stand, at least,
Jeter's a bum. We like Noma. Anyway, that's my American accent for you.
Good Boston. Good Boston.
Yeah. I think I would love to see youth sport elevate in this country. And right now, college sports in Canada are 1/50th of what it is in the States. We just don't have that grassroots support. And some schools are great. Montreal, the Rouge or Quebec youth sport football seems to be pretty big. There's pockets of support here and there. Same thing with basketball. And I don't know what it's going to take to get elevated to that next level. There's certainly strides to push it, but until it's as big a deal as the CFL, like you look at NCAA, bowl season in the States is almost as big as the NFL. It gets massive crowds and the tradition and the rivalries that build it, and we just don't have that here yet. I don't know what it'll take to get there, but I hope we can push it to the higher level.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm excited. I mean, we're just ground floor CFL fans and whatnot. I don't know how long we've been going. I think a pretty good chunk of time here. And so I guess you got to get to your weekend. You got a game to enjoy tomorrow. Who's going to win the Grey Cup, SBP? Because I know and mine answer.
Well, I would love it to be the Bombers, but for that to happen, they would have to have a miracle run and then probably play the Ticats. And because that's who Winnipeg traditionally beats in the Grey Cup. The Riders are looking good, and it pains me to say that. This is, especially their defense, this is one of the best Riders defenses that I think I've ever seen.
Shout out AJ Allen.
Yeah.
Personally, if not Winnipeg, I would love to see the Ticats end their drought. They haven't won since 1999. I'd be okay with that.
Does Bo has a couple too?
Yeah, with Calgary. Yeah,
Calgary.
With Calgary. BC is going to push. I think in the West is going to give Saskatchewan everything that they can handle, as well. They're trending in the right direction. But I think we're going to see Saskatchewan, Hamilton in the Grey Cup. Montreal isn't impossible either. I think they're getting healthy, and they can make some noise. I love Montreal's defense. They get me excited to watch football as much as I hate the Riders' defense. I love what Montreal does. But right now, my pick would be Saskatchewan, Hamilton, and I'd like to see the Ticats pull it off.
All right, I love it. That's bulletin board material, France, guys. A little bit of respect towards Montreal, but maybe some bulletin board stuff. Maybe I'll get Isaac. Maybe I'll send that clip saying, "Hey, these guys don't believe in you," so we can get rolling here as we get a little bit healthy. But SBP, as always, thank you for enlightening us with your presence. It's always good to talk to you, brother.
Yeah, man, great to catch up with you guys. I love it. Great to see you guys keeping going. I've been checking out some. Is it Saturday yet? Here and there as well.
Ooh.
Trying to boost my knowledge of NCAA football.
You're not going to learn much there. If you thought these were two unknowledged CFL fans, I don't know how much you're getting out of me, Diaz, and Luke Owens. Oh, I love it. Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. Hey, pump your stuff. Don't just pump my stuff.
Well, yeah. Third down Gamble podcast. I believe we recorded episode 318 that dropped yesterday, dropped Thursday. A special one coming up on Monday as well. I won't be on, but Don is interviewing CFL Hall of Famer Steve Daniel, who is the stats guru of the CFL. He's the one that had to run all of these samples for the rule changes. So I think it's going to be some great insight with Don and Steve talking stats, talking different scenarios. So check that one out on Monday. You can find me on X at the Lethal 13, Lethal spelt Leathal 13. And yeah, check us out on weekly on Third Down Gamble.
Third Down Gamble podcast. Everybody go listen. We got, occasionally when we post, we get a few views. I don't know where they come from. But hey, we appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. We're going to be more consistent. Things at work here. I've been mostly the problem. I was late for today. It's been a heck of a year in lawn care down here in the States. So as we get, I've found hopefully some consistency. We're going to be consistent rolling into the playoffs and not monthly, or it feels like sometimes bi-monthly. So get some consistency rolling into the playoffs. Maybe I'm not going to make any promises on anything else, but hopefully looking for some more consistency here now. This has been the Football A podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening.